Christian Bale is dedicated. He's easily one of the best lead actors this century, and he's got the movies and performances to back that up. But what sets him apart is his insane ability to just become the character he plays. The amount of work he puts in behind the scenes is just unreal. This guy goes from being super skinny to totally ripped to even sporting a full-on belly in no time. And it's not just about his physical transformations. He dives deep into each character, studies them meticulously, and fully immerses himself in them. He gets so into it that he stays in character even when the cameras aren't rolling, speaking in the character's accent during interviews and even using that accent when flipping out at crew members and leaked behind-the-scenes audio.
And I ain't walking on this set if you're still hired.
It's like what RDJ said.
Man, I don't drop character till I've done a DVD commentary.
So let's take a trip through Christian Bale's career and highlight all those moments where he went above and beyond. The crazy physical changes, the behavioral changes, and how he put himself through whatever the characters went through. We'll be going chronologically, starting with his breakout role in American Psycho. I guess it's a little unfair to label it as his breakout role because some point to 1987's Empire of the Sun instead, where a 13-year-old Christian Bale snagged a major role in a Steven Spielberg film. Out of 4,000 auditions, he got picked, and even at that young age, he already showed signs of his dedication. His character was often out of breath or in a rush, so Bale would run and jump around for minutes before each scene to also be breathless. Spielberg wasn't initially sold on Bale's audition, but after working with him, he did a complete 180. His career took a sweet time to get going though. In the 90s, he appeared in a few notable films like Newsies, Little Women, and Velvet Goldmine. But in 2000, we got one of his most iconic performances as Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. Surprisingly, Bale almost missed out on playing Bateman to Leonardo DiCaprio. The studio thought Bale wasn't famous enough, but for various reasons, including shielding Leo and his fangirls from a project like this, it led to it falling through. Only the director Mary Herron was pushing for Bale, and his native Welsh accent didn't slip out until filming wrapped.
The whole time you're sort of just self-obsessed.
When he finally dropped the American accent, everyone was shocked, thinking he was an American the entire time. To prepare for the character, he drew inspiration from Tom Cruise's interview with Letterman, where Cruise had an intense friendliness with nothing behind the eyes. Chloe Sevigny felt he was so consumed by the role that she thought he didn't like her because he seemed like he didn't want to socialize at all. And get this, most of his co-stars thought he was a terrible actor, one of the worst they've ever seen. It wasn't until later, thanks to DVD sales, that it became a cult classic. And these days it's gained a huge following, especially among the Sigma male crowd. For his next handful of films, Bale played it a bit safer, but 2004 brought us The Machinist, where Bale went all out, really pushing his body to the extreme. After a few films and performances that didn't quite satisfy him, he was itching for a role to dive into headfirst and to obsess over. Money wasn't the driving factor here, as there was barely any involved. He wanted a challenge, a role that would push him to his limits. So in The Machinist, Bale stepped into the shoes of Trevor Resnick, a machinist grappling with insomnia that's driven him to an extreme level of thinness. For this part, Bale, standing at 6 feet tall, lost 62 pounds, dropping down to a weight of 120 pounds. That kind of weight loss, considering his height, is seriously unhealthy, pretty much mirroring what his character was going through. His diet? Well, at first it was just whiskey and cigarettes, but then it became a daily ration of black coffee, an apple, and a can of tuna. He was described as a walking skeleton, but surprisingly, he wanted to go even further, aiming for a weight as low as 99 pounds. He mentioned that he enjoyed the process of shedding weight, feeling a euphoria from pushing his body to the extreme. But fortunately, the filmmaker stepped in to stop him from going any lower, seeing how frightening he looked at 120 pounds on set. That target weight was initially intended for a shorter actor, but Bale really wanted to test his limits. However, dropping that much weight had its downsides. Bale struggled with action scenes, admitting, "Watching me run is a joke because I have no leg muscles." He found himself sleeping only 2 hours a night, but had a lot more mental energy, spending many hours reading. He could even read for 10 hours straight with no problem. Despite the challenges, the film received positive reviews, with much of the praise directed at Bale's incredible performance. But for his next role, he wouldn't just need to reverse the weight loss, he'd have to pack on much more. In 2005, Batman Begins hit the screens with Christian Bale donning the roles of both Bruce Wayne and Batman. Now, we all know Bruce Wayne being a superhero means he's pretty jacked, so it's no surprise that those behind the movie were a bit nervous after seeing Bale's weight in The Machinist. There were about 6 months between wrapping The Machinist and Bale's screen test for Batman Begins, and Christopher Nolan had only one piece of advice for him: become as big as you could be. Bale hired a personal trainer and spent the next half a year weightlifting and binging on pizza and ice cream. He took it a bit too far, actually putting on a whopping 100 pounds. Except the weight was too much for the role, and because of the diet he was was on, a lot of it was fat. So before filming kicked off, he trimmed down, shedding around 30 pounds of that excess weight to hit a more muscular 190-pound frame. A pretty stark contrast from the look in his previous movie. Keeping in line with his dedication, Bale fully embraced the character, reportedly even having Bruce Wayne written on his trailer instead of his own name. And you can bet his Welsh accent was on the down low. During all the interviews promoting the film, he was using Bruce Wayne's American accent.
There's no need to have a dumb movie.
Who knows why he does it? Maybe to avoid people wondering why Batman sounds Welsh, or perhaps to help stay in character. Or maybe he's just waiting until they finish the DVD commentary. As for Batman's gravelly voice, that was somewhat Bale's idea. He played Batman as a rage-filled monster, not like the typical Batman performances we've seen before. Nolan liked the concept and they went for it, giving Batman a growling voice that made Bale lose his own voice a few times during filming. And the Batsuit, Bale hated it from day one. He found it constrictive and uncomfortable, which oddly enough added to his performance, keeping him in a perpetually foul mood, perfect for Batman. Bale went all in, performing many of his own stunts and prepping for weapons training, Wing Chun Kung Fu, and the Key fighting method. The film ended up scoring rave reviews and did decently at the box office, surprising skeptics who doubted Bale's star power in the absence of classic Batman villains. But we now know that 2 more sequels with Bale will be greenlit that will go on to become huge box office hits. In 2006, Christian Bale took one of his wildest film productions with Rescue Dawn, directed by Werner Herzog. Having Herzog's name on your resume automatically puts you in the running for the Most Dedicated Actor award. For those who don't know, Herzog's productions are downright crazy. Sure, they've toned down now with all the industry safety rules, but Rescue Dawn felt like a throwback to the wilder days. You know a production is going to be nuts when your first sit down with Herzog involves him asking how you feel about swimming in snake-infested waters, sleeping in the jungle at night, waking up with leeches on you, and biting off a snake's head. And Christian Bale, being Christian Bale, took the part. He stars as Dieter Dengler, a US pilot shot down in the Vietnam War and taken as a prisoner. A true story that Herzog even made a documentary about beforehand. To get into the role of a POW, Bale only had to lose 55 pounds, slimming down to a mere 135 pounds. To show the prisoners losing weight while starving in captivity, they shot the film in reverse because it's easier to gain weight than it is to lose it. But losing the weight was just the tip of the iceberg. They filmed in Thailand over 44 intense days. Herzog put Bale through all sorts of things that would make most of us cringe just thinking about them. Bale often went into snake-infested waters, wrestled with a real snake before switching it out for a fake one when biting its head, trekked barefoot through the jungle, dealt with leeches, ate real maggots, and got tied up and yanked around by a buffalo. And here's the kicker. Every unpleasant thing Herzog asked the actors to do, he offered to do it himself to prove that it was safe. He's known as one of the most hands-on directors, earning heaps of praise from everyone, except maybe Klaus Kinski.
Doch dein Scheiß!
There were scenes where the actors, including Bale, were chained up for hours, causing a lot of anxiety. And while Bale took the brunt of it, the whole cast and crew in Thailand faced a lot of challenges to wrap up the film. Not many actors these days go all in like Bale did for this film. I mean, how many would hang upside down by their feet with an ant nest on their face and get spun around? During this wild stunt, non-native English speakers spun Bale, but when Herzog tried to get them to stop, they thought he was urging them to speed up. With ants crawling over his face, Bale endured this mishap, leaving him unable to stand straight for days. Despite all the madness, the film did well at the box office and earned some pretty great reviews, with most of the praise going to both Herzog and Bale. Critics lauded Bale for completely immersing himself in the role, and Herzog enjoyed his time working with Bale, saying that he recognized him as one of this generation's best talents long before he played Batman. Bale's career really started to hit its stride, getting all sorts of interesting roles. In 2008, he suited up once again as Batman in The Dark Knight, but this time around, he barely had to gain weight. Although still fit, he didn't pack on as much muscle to fit in the leaner, more flexible Batsuit design. This new suit allowed him to pull off the Key fighting method way better than in Batman Begins. He continued to do a ton of his own stunts, even having to persuade the filmmakers to let him perform the scenes where Batman surveys the city on the rooftop instead of using a stunt double. But let's face it, Bale's dedication to the role kinda took a backseat to Heath Ledger's iconic performance as the Joker. He absolutely stole the show in that film. Now, this next part doesn't show his dedication as an actor that well, but in the summer of 2008, while filming Terminator Salvation, a leaked audio recording caught Bale cussing and going off on the cinematographer Shane Hurlbut. Poor Hurlbut was wandering into the scene to fiddle with the lighting until Bale had enough and took it out on him verbally, even threatening to quit. Bale has apologized since then, but it was kind of funny hearing most of his rant in the American accent he used for the film.
No! No! Don't shut me up!
Now, that's some next level commitment. In 2010, Bale once again transformed his weight for The Fighter. Bale lost an additional 30 pounds on top of the weight he had already lost for Terminator Salvation to play Dickie Eklund, boxer Mickey Ward's half-brother and trainer. Dickie was a crack addict during the movie's timeline, hence Bale's weight loss. He hung out a lot with the real Dickie to nail down the behavior and stayed in character the whole time on set. The film did very well at the box office and with critics, especially praising Bale's performance. So much so that he snagged the Best Supporting Actor Oscar for this role. And unlike many Oscar winners who might take it easy after winning or kinda get unlucky, Bale's career wasn't slowing down. He was about to become much bigger. Literally. Fast forward to 2013 and we got American Hustle, where Bale played sleazy conman Irving Rosenfield, who was roped into a sting operation involving the government. To slip into character, he put on a hefty 43 pounds, but unlike his previous weight gains, he wasn't aiming for a muscular frame. From his 135 pounds in The Fighter, he went up to 190 pounds for The Dark Knight Rises, and then up again to over 230 pounds for this role. And it wasn't just the weight gain though. Bale shaved his head, rocked a comb over, and sported a slouched posture that even led to a herniated disc. Bale was so transformed that Robert De Niro had to pull the director aside to ask who he was, even though he had already met Bale before. Besides the physical overhaul, he spent loads of time dissecting footage of con artist Mel Weinberg, and all that hard work paid off. The film was a hit at the box office and wowed critics, scoring Bale a Best Actor Oscar nomination. But the weight gain did put him at risk of losing his next role as Moses in Exodus, God and Kings. He managed to shed the excess weight in time for the film, but it wouldn't have been the end of the world if he skipped out on that one. In 2015, Christian Bale starred as Michael Burry in Adam McKay's The Big Short. Burry, the hedge fund manager who foresaw the impending crash of the US housing market, might not have required any physical transformations, but Bale still nailed the role. He spent loads of time with the real Burry, picking up his quirks like walking barefoot in the office, and even borrowed his cargo shorts and t-shirt to wear in the film. Talk about getting into character. But his physical dedication to the role was seen with the drumming scene where he performed it himself despite having a terrible knee injury. McKay had to have doctors on standby when filming it. The movie did great on all fronts and even scored Bale an Oscar nod for Best Supporting Actor. And just 3 years later, Bale teamed up with McKay again for Vice. He played former US Vice President Dick Cheney before and during the Bush presidency, and man, he looked nothing like himself. He bulked up around 40 pounds, weighing at around 225. Bleached his eyebrows, shaved his head, and even splurged on a $3,000 neck exercise machine to beef up his neck for the part. Then came the intense research, mannerisms, ad-libs, and policies he knew at any given moment in his life, so he could keep up with McKay's improvisational directing style. Bale's deep dive into Cheney's world even saved McKay's life. Cheney had a lot of heart problems, and Bale's research on heart attacks gave McKay the heads up on symptoms like feeling queasy and stomach pain. Well, not long after that conversation, McKay, who's been very out of shape as of late, began to feel these symptoms and was rushed to the hospital. Luckily, because he got there so soon, any heart damage was averted. The film, though not a hit at the box office or with critics, got Bale another Oscar nod and a Golden Globe win. But just a year later, Bale stunned everyone in Ford v Ferrari, losing a jaw-dropping 70 pounds to become Ken Miles, Ford's Le Mans driver during the 60s. When he turned up on set looking skinny just 7 months after Vice's filming wrapped up, Matt Damon was shocked. Damon asked him about his diet and Bale just casually answered, "I didn't eat." This drop in weight was one of his biggest, and after it he declared that he'd no longer do these kind of weight fluctuations for roles as it was becoming more and more unhealthy as he was getting older. Bale also took race driving lessons at a school whose founder was friends with the real Ken Miles, so he was getting a 2-for-1 deal in preparing for the role by hearing some old stories about Miles. But despite the lessons, Bale didn't do most of the driving scenes. The purpose of these lessons were to give him an understanding of the mental and physical challenges a driver goes through. The movie did pretty good with the crowds and critics, though no Oscar nod this time, despite all the praise he got. And that was really his last performance that showed us how dedicated he can be. But that's not to say more won't come. He only appeared in 3 films since then, but he still gave each of his performances his all. He really stood out in Amsterdam and Thor: Love and Thunder as Gore, even though both films were poorly reviewed. But it seems his wild physical transformations are a thing of the past. Even his stay-in-character antics toned down a bit, where Natalie Portman mentioned he'd show up as Gore looking scary and then just go, "Hey, what's up?" But acting like Gore 24/7 off camera takes a special kind of dedication and almost an insanity that maybe only Jared Leto could pull off. So there you have it, all the times Christian Bale went all out for his roles. What's your take on it? Think there's an actor who's even more dedicated? Share your thoughts below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and check out our Patreon for even more content. But until next time, have a good one.